What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is part of a series where I focus on a specific director and rank that director's work from worst to best. I've done such directors in the past such as Stanley Kubrick, Wes Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson, Christopher Nolan. Those directors and many more in my director playlist down below is where you guys can check it out. But guys, you clicked on this video, so you know this time around I'm focusing on Park Chan-Wook's films and ranking them from worst to best. Now, do keep in mind I am filming this video in August of 2023, and this will be coming out some point in 2024. So keep in mind if he does have a film come out between August of 2023 and 2024, then it will not include that film. But this was something that I also wanted to mention to you guys, that this list will not include any short films that Park Chan-Wook has done, any TV shows that he's done, music videos, none of that. Just feature-length films. And as of, again, the filming of this video, August of 2023, he's done 11 films, so I'll be ranking them from 11 being his worst to 1 being his best, and of course, my humble opinion. And I'll be very curious to hear your guys' ranking in the comment section down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So, kicking things off with this list, we have number 11, which is Trio. Trio is a very hard movie to find. I will not be surprised in the slightest if in the comment section down below I do not see that many people rank this movie, because again, it is very hard to find, and for good reason. Park Chan-Wook's first two films, he pretty much disowned. He made it a point to where those first two movies are very hard to find, and I understand why after watching them, because they're not good. They're really, really, really subpar, especially with the standards that he, as a director, set for himself with his third film onwards. Trio is a movie that I did not like in the slightest, and the only reason why I would say watch is if you're like myself and is a completionist trying to watch all Park Chan-Wook's films. Other than that, avoid it at all costs. And that's why it's my number 11. Next up, my number 10, you guessed it, his sophomore movie that is, get this, this title is something. The Moon is the Sun's Dream. Yeah, this movie, again, it is not good. It is hard to find for a reason. Yeah, it's not good. Again, similar to Trio, just avoid. Only watch if you're trying to be a completionist like myself. Other than that, it's slightly better than Trio, but yeah, not by much, and that's why it's my number 10. Next up, number 9, we get into the movies that I like onwards. These rest of the 9 I do like, and they vary in terms of how much, but my number 9 is Stoker. Stoker I like enough. I do think that it is a movie I will watch a third time, and when I say a third time, I mean that I watched it about 7 years ago, and I liked it somewhat. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I was like, you know what, I liked the original because it is technically a remake of a Hitchcock film called, I believe it was A Shadow of a Doubt, and I decided that I would revisit it, give it a second chance last year, just because, not last year, earlier this year, I should say. Get my dates mixed up. But I decided to revisit it just so it was fresh in my mind. And I liked it more. And I really think that it's a movie that it's definitely entertaining. It's definitely fast paced. It's very well acted. And it's his one and only American film. And I definitely will say that it's not by any means a great movie or even a good movie, but it is something that I did think that was okay to salvage. And I would say it's definitely worth your time. And if you do have this higher up on your list, I can definitely understand why, because again, it is a, decently put together movie, and it does have the Park Chan-Wook trademarks that we all come to expect. I just didn't love it despite wanting to, because again, the premise and everything is something that's up my alley, but the execution at times did leave some, desire. But still, I liked it enough, and that's why Stoker's my number 9. Next up, my number 8, we have I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay. So this one, I'm not going to lie, I saw a couple days ago, and going into it, I was like, okay, it's a Park Chan-Wook film, and yes, I love him as a director, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about this movie, and I will say right away, he hooked me. His directing hooked me, his editing hooked me, and I was engaged throughout this movie. This is definitely something that I can see myself revisiting and liking even more. It is very well put together. It's very entertaining, surprisingly funny too, but at the same time, it does know how to have dramatic heft when need be. I liked this one. I definitely did, and it was a surprise because, again, I went into it not exactly with the highest expectations. I went in with the mindset of, I'm going to watch it because it's a Park Chan-Wook film, but that's it. And I came out saying, yeah, that was very well made, and I definitely would recommend it, and that's why it's my number 8. Next up, my number 7, I actually just finished watching it today. My number 7 is Thirst. This is a vampire film, a religious vampire film, and I gotta say, it is quite something. There are so many twists and turns. I really like Park Chan-Wook's directing in this. I think that it is quite effective. It starts out as one thing and it progresses into something else entirely, and that's what I absolutely love about him as a director, is that he knows how to deal with tonal consistency in a way that I don't see in too many directors, but he knows how to handle it because there are so many tonal shifts in this movie, and I think for me it works quite well. It's very well acted. It's dealing with a lot of themes and messages that I think are quite deep, and I think that by the end, you'll feel conflicted throughout, but I think that by the end as a viewer, I couldn't help personally being really attached to what was going on. And I would definitely say this is 100% worth your time. I can 100% see myself revisiting it. It's really well put together. And yeah, that's why it's my number 7. Next up, my number 6, we have Joint Security Area, or as many people call it, JSA. This is really something. This movie, if I'm not mistaken, this was his 3rd film. So he was coming after, Trio and The Moon is the Sun's Dream. And this is definitely a movie that I wouldn't be surprised if people think that this is his debut film, because it's one of those things where you can see all the early signs of, hey, this director knows his stuff. He is really, really good at what he does. And he just instantly hooks you with this premise. Especially because of the way that it's told, nonlinear storytelling. It's very effective because there are many elements that in the 3rd act that are come to light. It's like, oh, that makes sense as to why this happened and this happened. And it's just very well put together. It's tightly paced. I will also say it's very, very well acted. You'll see a lot of faces that are familiar. They all do a great job. I really liked everything about this film. And this is yet another example of a film that I think is great. I liked it more than Thirst, and I do think that it is 100% worth your time. And yeah, that's why Joint Security Area is my number 6. And next up, we have my number 5, which is Lady Vengeance. So Lady Vengeance, I watched the Fade to White version, and I have to say that is the only way you should watch this film. This is one of those films that really does a great job of, as a viewer in the 3rd act, putting a lot of themes and messages that put us as viewers in a situation where we're conflicted morally. And I really like that about this film. But I also think that it's a film that it's very stylish, and at the same time, that style combined with the substance makes for a excellent film. And I also argue this all the time, but I do think that in film, especially when you have a style, it's important because sometimes that is what brings about all of the depth. And this is definitely a case of that. Lady Vengeance is a film that will challenge you. It will put human emotions under the microscope, and it does so in a way that I think is so, so good. And part of me wants to spoil the cinematography, what they do, but the other part of me is like, no, just go in knowing that the cinematography is special in the Fade to White version, and it's something that's excellent. Highly, highly recommend this film, especially the Fade to White version. Park Chan-Wook's directing is on another level, and yeah, that's why it's my number 5. I'm so glad I own this film. Next up, my number 4, may as well keep this out because this has all 3 of the Vengeance trilogy. My number 4 is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Now, this might be a hot take because looking at other people's Park Chan-Wook's lists, I've seen a lot of people say that of the trilogy that this is the one that they like the least, and that a lot of times people have this at the lower end of Park Chan-Wook's list. I disagree. I think that this film, even more so than Lady Vengeance, really asks a lot of morally ambiguity questions that I quite liked. It challenges us. It challenges us as viewers in a way that is quite something. Like, you are immediately thrown into the life of this one character, and you see why the character does certain things. But at the same time, he does other things that's very frustrating, and it just makes it to where you feel conflicted. And that's humans, though. Humans are individuals that will conflict you on one level or another. You might like someone 1 minute, and the next minute you're like, why did you do that? And that's what this film emulates in such a great way. Cinematography is fantastic. I absolutely love what they do with the background of certain scenes in particular. It's something else, man. It really is. Park Chan-Wook's directing is great. Acting is strong. This is an incredible film. It really is. Watch it. Please watch it. You might not watch it and say it's an easy watch. I get it. But I do think it's a necessity to view. And yeah, I absolutely love this film. And that's why it is my number 4. I know, might be a hot take because I know some people have this down lower on the list. It's a shame, really. But speaking of down lower on the list, my number 3 is a film that I know a lot of people have on the lower end of their list. Or I even saw some people in Letterboxd give this a 3 out of 5 when it came out last year. Don't know how that's possible. But anyways, my number 3 is Decision to Leave. I adored this film. Spoiler alert, this was my favorite film of 2022. I loved Decision to Leave. I loved every single element about this film. To the point of where the last 10 minutes, I said to myself, okay, there's this thing that they're teasing that they're going to do. If they actually do this, then my heart's going to be broken, but at the same time, I'm absolutely going to love it. And they did it, and I was like, yes, Park Chan-Wook, he's a great director. He gives you endings that aren't easy, but they are necessities. And with everything that's happened before, it makes so much sense. I love it. And Decision to Leave, it's such a great film. It really is. It's a mystery film, yes, but it's also a romance film. It's a thriller. Combines many different genres, but it also has the trademark of Park Chan-Wook having excellent directing with the editing style that he emulates in a way that has transitions that are just god tier. Cinematography is outstanding. There's just so much love about this film. I have no issues with this film. That's why when I see some people give this a lower rating, I'm just like, maybe we saw different films, but film is subjective. But for me, I absolutely love Decision to Leave. It is a masterpiece, and it is one of my favorite films of the 2020s, hands down, and my favorite film of 2022, hands down. But yeah, that's my number 3. Next up, my number 2, we have The Handmaiden. Yeah, The Handmaiden is excellent. It's a period piece. It's a romance. It's an LGBTQ plus film. It's a thriller. It just combines so many different genres, which again, at this point, I'm a broken record saying, but it's a film that combines many different genres, which is something that Park Chan-Wook excels at. And The Handmaid's Tale in particular, it's so many different things of emotions on which I personally felt. And I know I just accidentally said Handmaid's Tale. I meant The Handmaiden, my apologies. But it's a film that I just experienced so many different emotions. But more importantly, it's a film that has a score that really makes you emotional, which I appreciated. And there's so many different twists and turns. AKA, it's everything that I love about Park Chan-Wook in one film. And I would highly recommend you watch this film because it is excellent. One of my favorite films of the 2010s and just in general. Love it, love it, love it. That's why it's number 2. Next up, my number 1, you probably guessed it based on the shirt, but my number 1 is Oldboy. So Oldboy is, Oldboy is just fantastic. It really is. This is the film that introduced me to Park Chan-Wook, and when I watched it, I immediately said, okay, I'm curious about this director's other work, and eventually I stumbled upon some of his other films and then went down the rabbit hole watching all his films, but this is the one that started it all, because Oldboy, it's known for its twists. Not going to spoil it, of course, but it's known for its twists. But even if you know the twist, it's still a very effective drama. It also combines action, thriller. It just does everything well. An ending that's got a gut punch to you. It's got a great character study, great score, great cinematography, action scenes when they come up, really well done. Just has everything you can want in a film. One of my favorite films of all time. And yeah, that's why it's my number 1. And I do hope that Neon, I know, has the 4K that's about to come out in theaters. I do hope that they release the 4K on physical media, because the Blu-ray, it looks good, but I know it could look better, and yeah, especially with the 4K restoration. But yeah, Oldboy, it's my number 1. But yeah, guys, at the end of these videos, I do like to talk a little bit about the director and if I like him or not. And I'll just say right off the bat, Park Chan-Wook is one of my favorite directors of all time. I realized that over the course of watching the last couple of films of his that I hadn't seen before. But yeah, he's a director that's similar to David Fincher. You take out the one film where he didn't have complete control, which in David Fincher's case was Alien 3. In Park Chan-Wook's case, it was Trio and the Man is a Son's Dream, whatever it's called. You take those two out, and you have Park Chan-Wook's filmography, which in my opinion is all home runs. Some more so than others, some are grand slams, but they all have things that I love about him. I think that he does such a great job of directing and really makes me feel conflicted when I'm watching his films. Like, I feel so many different emotions. I feel like I'm actually with the characters, experiencing everything that they're going through. And I think that's something to cherish, that a director is able to emulate. I love his editing style that he has. The cinematography is always something that's a standout. The score that he has with each of his films. Just a lot of great performances too, and just themes that are very rich. Yeah, he's one of my favorite directors, and I do think that if you haven't been watching his films, I would highly recommend you go down the rabbit hole and watch all his films, except his first 2. But besides that, highly recommend him and his work. And again, I'm very curious to hear your guys' ranking down below. And guys, don't forget subscription, notification bell, follow me down Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.